इसमें हमने क्या लॉजिक लगाया, एक जनरल पॉइंट P ले लिया, P ले लिया जनरल पॉइंट। अब इस जनरल पॉइंट को फोकस कंसीडर कर लिया a,0। अब डायरेक्ट्रिक्स जो था वो था x इक्वल टू a बाई ई। अगर देखें तो फोकस में e मल्टीप्लाई हो रहा है, a कोऑर्डिनेट e मल्टीप्लाई हो रहा है और इसमें e डिवाइड हो रहा है और e ग्रेटर देन 1 था। इस वजह से जो डायरेक्ट्रिक्स है वो ऑरिजिन के करीब में चला जाएगा और अपना बेसिक कॉन्सेप्ट है PS अपॉन PM इज इक्वल टू E, यानी PS स्क्वायर इज इक्वल टू E स्क्वायर इंटू PM स्क्वायर। PS स्क्वायर अभी भी वही है, x माइनस ए का होल स्क्वायर plus y square, and when we are calculating PM, if we see the distance of directrix from origin is a by e, and this point P is, if we drop a perpendicular on the x-axis, its coordinate is x comma 0. So the length from the origin of this P is x. So the distance of this point from directrix is x minus a by e, that is PM, because this whole is x and this is a by e, it becomes x minus a by e. So PS square is x minus a whole square plus y square is equal to e square into x minus a by e whole square, PM square, this one. Square it, x square minus twice ax plus a square e square plus y square is equal to e square x square plus a square by e square minus twice ax by e. E square, multiply it, open the bracket, e square x square, e square cancel, a square minus twice ax, this and this get cancelled, x square, and bring this e square x square left side, x square minus x square e square plus y square, a square e square to the right of the a equal to a square minus a square e square. A square taken common, it becomes 1 minus e square. Divide with a square into 1 minus e square. So it becomes x square into 1 minus e square divided by a square into 1 minus e square plus y square divided by a square 1 minus e square. I said a square into 1 minus e square. This is a negative. Why? Because e is greater than 1 for hyperbola. So 1 minus e square will be negative. So I am taking negative common. So this become plus minus y square divided by a square into 1 minus e square is written as e square minus 1. In the ellipse, this one is written as x square by a square plus y square by b square, where eccentricity lying between 0 to 1. But in hyperbola, eccentricity is greater than 1. This quantity is a square I'm writing, so this must be positive. That's why I'm writing this as a b square, but before that it should be positive. I've taken the negative common. The negative comes here. X square by a square minus y square by b square is equal to 1. Now what is b square? So you can write b square as a square into e square minus 1, and in ellipse the b square is written as a square into 1 minus e square, which I always write it like this also, b square is equal to a square minus a square e square. But in hyperbola, I am writing it as b square is equal to a square e square minus a square. Now we are going to draw the graph of hyperbola. The equation of hyperbola is x square by a square minus y square by b square. Let's find where it intersects the x-axis. For x-axis, y coordinate is 0. So it becomes x square by a square is equal to 1. And x is equal to plus minus a. What about y-axis? When y-axis, then x is equal to 0. Minus y square by b square is equal to 1. Which means y square is equal to minus b square. It will never intersect the y-axis. If we replace x by minus x, graph remains same, and y as minus y, there is no change in the equation. Therefore, graph is symmetric about x-axis and y-axis. It will never intersect the y-axis. So the shape is like this. It will intersect at point a comma 0, and second point is a dash minus a comma 0, and the graph is like this. It goes here and it goes like this. It will never intersect the y-axis. The graph portions looks like this. Now the terminology will define it. Some of the terminology which we have studied in the ellipse, major axis, minor axis, focus, everything we will talk about here and discuss about axis, what we can say the axis. So first of all, as we have formed the equation of the hyperbola, the first we have considered the focus. So this focus S, which is equal to a comma 0, and second focus S dash minus a comma 0. Corresponding a comma 0, the directrix equation is x is equal to a by e, and for minus a comma 0 focus, as it is symmetric about x-axis and y-axis, so focus will be 2, and similarly the directrix will be also 2. So for minus a comma 0, the directrix is x is equal to minus a by e. Now talk about the vertex. Vertex means axis and point of intersection of graph is called vertex. But what is what axis? The line joining the foci is called axis. So this A and A dash are called axis, and it's perpendicular to this A dash is also called axis. We referred as A dash as transverse axis. This is a transverse axis. In ellipse, we are talked it as a major axis, but in hyperbola, we will talk it as a transverse axis. Now, a line perpendicular to this transverse axis and passes through the focus is called conjugate axis. It is a conjugate axis. So for this, we considered 2 points. As in ellipse, we considered by ourselves 2 points, B and B dash. Let's consider this as a 0 comma B and this as a 0 comma minus B. The line joining B and B dash, which is perpendicular to the transverse axis and passes through the origin, is called conjugate axis. What is a chord? Line joining any 2 points on the curve is called chord. If this chord passes through the foci, this is called focal chord. And what is a double ordinate? The chord can be like this also. This also a 2 point on the graph. Don't think that the chord will be on the right of the portion of line joining 2 points, or to the left of the portion a line joining 2 points, but it can be 1 point to the left of y-axis and to the right of y-axis, or positive x-axis or negative x-axis. VB dash is, this is a chord. Let's see and C dash. What is a double ordinate? A double ordinate means a chord perpendicular to the axis. And axis we are talking, then it is a transverse axis. This A, I have considered it A, so let's write something else. It is B also I have considered. Let's consider this as a D and D dash. So double ordinate means a chord perpendicular to the transverse axis is called double ordinate. The same terminology has been used as we are used in the ellipse. Now we are talking about the lattice vector. A chord perpendicular to the transverse axis and passes to the focus, or you can say a double ordinate passes through the focus. Double ordinate passes through the focus is called lattice rectangle. So we call it as a lattice rectangle. Now we will define, or we'll write the terminology. The first is, I am going to write x square by a square minus y square by b square is equal to 1. The first terminology comes center. Second comes focus. Directrix, transverse axis, conjugate axis, vertex, lattice rectangle, parametric coordinate, and last point is distance of point P from P x comma y from focus. Let's write the order name: first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, and this is 10. Draw the figure of hyperbola. This is a hyperbola. This is a foci. This is a directrix. This is a directrix. Now the first comes terminology center. The center is 0, 0. Focus. Focus is a, 0 plus minus a, 0. Directrix equation: x is equal to plus minus a by e. Transverse axis, this a and a dash. The transverse axis equation is, it is an x-axis. X-axis equation is y is equal to 0. Length of transverse axis to a conjugate axis. Conjugate axis is y-axis. Its equation is x is equal to 0. Length of conjugate axis is 2b. This is a hypothetical. We have considered it by ourselves, 0, b and 0, minus b. Vertex is the end point of transverse axis. End point also we write it. End point is plus minus a, 0. End point I can write is as 0, plus minus b. Vertex is the end point of transverse axis. End point of transverse axis, that is plus minus a, 0. Now talking about lattice rectum. So lattice rectum is a double ordinate passes through the focus. So the x coordinate will be AE, y coordinate will be change. Let's put a, y in the equation and calculate the value of y. It becomes a square e square upon a square minus y square upon v square is equal to 1. Y square by v square is equal to e square minus 1. As when we calculated, we have derived the equation of hyperbola. We comes to know that b square can be written as a square e square minus 1, and e square minus 1 can be written as b square by a square. I can write it as a b square by a square. So y square is equal to b power 4 divided by a square. So y becomes plus minus b square by a. So lattice rectum end point can be written as, it is same as the ellipse, plus minus a, plus minus b square by a. There are 4 points. One point this, second this, third, and this is 4. And length will be equal to 2b square by a. Now the parametric coordinate. Parametric coordinate is in the ellipse. If we are calculating, it is a cos theta, b sin theta. Later we comes to know, when we have drawn the auxiliary circle, how we can take any point on the ellipse. So similarly, right now, just you remember it, that the parametric coordinate or any point on the hyperbola can be taken as a sec theta, b tan theta. Later on, we will draw the auxiliary circle and we'll come to know that how it has come. If you satisfy this equation, a sec theta whole square upon a square minus b tan theta upon whole square divided by b square, it will come 1. As sec square theta minus tan square theta. From here you can get it, sec square theta minus tan square theta, which is equal to 1. That is, means it is satisfying the equation. Or if you are not coming to know, a square divided by a square, it get cancelled. Now come to the point, last point, distance of a point P, x, y, distance of a point P from focus is equal to E times the distance from directrix. Let's calculate this. I am taking center hyperbola figure, showing it again. See, there are two focus, and each focus has one directrix. A comma 0, if you are considering the directrix equation will be x is equal to a by e. But when you are calculating the focus minus a comma 0, as it is symmetric, so its directrix will be x is equal to minus a by e. I have taken one point, that is x comma y, and I'm measuring the distance from the focus. So it means its distance from the corresponding directrix. This is PM. So PS upon PM is equal to E. PS is equal to E times of PM. PS, if we have calculate PS, it's better to calculate the E times PM. So let's calculate E times PM. Once again, if I say what is the distance if I drop a perpendicular of this point on the x-axis, so I ask what is this distance, you will say this is x. So this distance whole from y-axis is x, and this distance is a by e. So what is PM? So PM is x minus a by e. So e times x minus a by e. So it becomes ex minus a. Now I will tell, now you calculate the distance from this foci. So you will say, let's calculate the distance from this directrix and e times. So now whole distance this become x, and this a by e distance. So now if you ps dash, you will say e pm dash. Now e, this distance become x and this becomes a by e. So x plus a by e, ex plus a. So the question is distance of a point from focus. So one, it comes ex plus a, and other comes ex minus a. So the property of hyperbola is one more, ps minus ps dash minus ps is equal to 2a, ex plus a minus ex minus a is equal to 2a. And for ellipse, if you remember it, it is written as ps plus ps dash is equal to 2a. So I'm repeating the another formula for hyperbola is a point P which moves in such a way that the difference of the distance from two fixed points remains constant, which is equal to the length of transverse axis, is called hyperbola. And if it becomes the sum of the distance from two fixed points remains constant, then it is called ellipse. Now let's move to the conjugate hyperbola. Conjugate hyperbola, if we are talking it, so what is the difference? Then conjugate, let's talk about conjugate hyperbola. Conjugate hyperbola. As we have talked conjugate ellipse, now we are talking about conjugate hyperbola. I am writing the equation of conjugate hyperbola. See, x square by a square minus y square by b square. In the place of 1, I am writing minus 1. Or you can write it like this: y square upon b square minus x square by a square is equal to 1. This is conjugate hyperbola. Then what is the difference? Just which we have studied the hyperbola. that hyperbola is cutting the x-axis, and this hyperbola will never cuts the x-axis. As if we draw the graph, then it cuts the y-axis at 0 comma b, and this is 0 comma minus b, but it will never cuts the x-axis, and the graph will be like this, moving upward and downward. Now for both these things you can see that it is same. If I minus multiply, it will become like this. So my sign has never changed. Y square denominator is always written as b square, and x square denominator is written as a square. Now what is b square? Now I am writing here. First we have studied about eccentricity here. B square is equal to a square into e square minus 1. The ellipse equation looks like this. Now for this one I will change. I will write a square is equal to b square into e square minus 1. Initially I am writing it as b square is equal to a square into e square minus 1. Let's talk about foci. What will be the foci? The foci will become 0 comma plus minus b. Directrix will become x is equal to b by e, and x is equal to, sorry, y is equal to b by e. Y is equal to plus minus b by e. It means it cuts the y-axis at 0 comma b by e and 0 comma minus b by e. This is y-axis. This is 0 comma 0. This becomes directrix. Now let's talk about transverse axis. The transverse axis will be, let's consider this as b and b dash. The notation remains same what we have used in x square by a square minus y square by b square is equal to 1. The transverse axis equation is x is equal to 0. End point will be 0 comma plus minus b. Length will be 2b. Conjugate axis equation is x-axis equation is y equal to 0. End point we considered as plus minus a comma 0. We are considering by ourselves, and it is a standard, and we have to consider this one only. Length is equal to 2a. Center, as we have right here, center is 0 comma 0. Now lattice rectum. Lattice rectum, as in the ellipse, it will be the same, plus minus a square by b comma plus minus be. Length will be is equal to 2a square by b. If you want to write the equation, then it becomes y is equal to plus minus b. Next we have considered as a parametric coordinate. Let's talk about parametric coordinate. What will be the parametric coordinate? parametric coordinate, you can see that we are considering there a sec theta comma b tan theta. But here we have to, because sec square theta minus tan square theta is equal to 1. Here now we have to consider it as x coordinate will be a. If we place here, again see this become b squared tan square theta, but it will be wrong. We have to write it b sec theta, and this become a tan theta. Place it and get clear it. This become b square sec square theta divided by b square. It will become sec square theta. Now I'm placing this x a square tan square theta by a square. This becomes tan square theta. So sec square theta minus tan square theta will become 1. Now we have to calculate distance of point P x comma y from foci. If we are taking this point and we are measuring from foci, then it means we have to consider it from the directrix. So if we draw perpendicular from here to the origin, this length is y, and this distance is b by e. So what is the distance from directrix? So this distance becomes y minus b by e. This distance becomes y minus b by e. This is p, this is s, and this is m. So ps is equal to e times of pm, e times of y minus b by e, which becomes ey minus b. Ey minus b, and other will be ey plus b. This is ps and this is ps dash. So remember all this terminology, and we will discuss in the next class.